The speaker will be Francesca Sorce. Thank you.
This article was written by Vincenzo Puppo, Andrea Mannucci, Jasmine Abdulkadir, and Giulia Puppo. Sexologists assert that the physiology and anatomy of female sexual organs are poorly understood, but female sexual embryology and anatomy are always described in human anatomy textbooks. The first detailed description of the clitoris, including its deeper structures, was written by Fallopius in 1561. Female sexual physiology was described in Dickinson's textbooks in 1949 and by Master and Johnson in 1966. Although Laqueur wrote in 1990, the clitoris, like the penis, was for 2 millennia both a precious jewel and a sexual organ, and before 1905, no one thought that there was any other kind of female orgasm than the clitoral sort. The distinction between clitoral and vaginal orgasm is not correct from a scientific point of view, because vaginal orgasm is a term invented by Freud in 1905. The vaginal orgasm is only a theory. Lacan wrote that in 1905, Sigmund Freud rediscovered the clitoris, or in any case the clitoral orgasm, by inventing its counterpart, the vaginal orgasm. So after 400, perhaps even 2,000 years, there was all of a sudden a second place postulated from which women described sexual pleasure. In 1905, for the first time, a doctor claimed that there were 2 kinds of orgasm, and that the vaginal sort was the expected norm among the adult women. Freud knew that the natural center of the female erotic pleasure was the clitoris, and that this one was culturally in competition with the necessary center of the pleasure of the woman, the vagina. Freud himself underlines that biology has to recognize the clitoris, in the clitoris a real substitute of the penis. The vagina doesn't have an anatomical structure that can cause an orgasm. Until now, no scientist and no anatomy and neurology textbook demonstrated any vagus nerve termination in the vagina and in the cervix uteri. The genitosensory component of the vagus nerve is only an hypothesis. The same thing we have to clarify regarding the G-spot. The G-spot is actually an hypothesis. Gräfenberg in 1950 hasn't discovered any G-spot. In his article, he describes the role of the urethra in female orgasm and not the role of the vagina. Gräfenberg described some cases of female and male urethral masturbation and the corpus spongiosum of the female urethra. Analogous to the male urethra, the female urethra also seemed to be surrounded by erectile tissues, like the corpora cavernosa. Gräfenberg writes that the intraurethral glands could only release fluid that is not urine to the orgasm. But he didn't report an orgasm of intraurethral glands. In fact, the female prostate doesn't have an anatomical structure that can cause an orgasm. Gräfenberg also writes, the restriction to the vaginal orgasm, however, doesn't give the true picture of female sexuality. The woman in top posture is more stimulating when the erotogenic parts come in contact better. Intercourse from the back of the woman is the most natural one, and the female genitals have to be higher than the other parts of her body. The entrance to the rectum can also become an erotogenic center. Orgasm could be achieved with a finger in the anus and the penis in the vagina. Cunnilingus leads to a more complete orgasm. Every sexologist should read Gräfenberg's original article, and I believe that the hypothetical area named G-spot should be defined vaginal spot. The erectile structures are the same in female and in male, and the clitoris is equivalent only to a part of male penis. The male erection is equivalent to the erection of the female erectile organs. Some sexologists use the term bulbs of the clitoris, clitoral urethra, clitoral vagina, but from an embryological and anatomical point of view, these terms are incorrect. The bulbs do not develop from the phallus. They don't belong to the clitoris. The female urethra doesn't go across the clitoris, and there's not a part of the vaginal wall which adheres to the clitoris. The correct term to indicate the whole female erectile organs should therefore be female penis. Kegel exercise allows the contraction not only of the pubococcygeus muscle, but of all the perineal muscles, and especially of the superficial ones, the most important in sexology, and the term pelvic is incorrect for these muscles. The istiocavernosus muscles are the muscle of the erection. In male, the bulbocavernosus muscles are the muscles of ejaculation, while in female are the muscles for the orgasm. And the rhythmic contraction of the third external of the vagina during orgasm are mainly due to contraction of the bulbocavernosus muscle. These muscles are also responsible of the inferior vaginismus. The urethral musculature is important for female ejaculation, and many women are not aware of that because the emission happens without squirting, especially if they have never done Kegel exercise. Pubococcygeus is another incorrect term. For many years, the term pubovaginal muscle has been used, and this muscle is responsible for superior vaginismus. Some sexologists use the term periurethral glands for the membrane surrounding urethral meatus from clitoris to anterior introital edge. In my opinion, the correct term is vaginal vestibule. Alban's fascia is a layer of dense connective in the bladder vaginal septum, and it doesn't correspond to the male corpus spongiosum, as some sexologists believe. Conclusion. The orgasm is possible in every woman because it's caused by the female erectile and organs, and as in male, only one kind of orgasm exists, the female orgasm. In Basson's model of the female sexual response cycle, orgasm and resolution are not essential, and in women, sexual satisfaction may occur without orgasm. But why the orgasm and the resolution should not be fundamental for female sexual satisfaction? Orgasm is always present in male sexual response cycle, and it's fundamental for sexual satisfaction. Orgasm has to be considered essential in female sexual response cycle too, because every woman has the right to have sexual health and to feel sexual pleasure for the complete psychophysiological well-being of the person. Sexologists should define as complete sexual intercourse, in other words, making love, the situation in which the orgasm happens in both partners, with or without a vaginal intercourse. Sexologists should teach boys and girls the art of making love, and that the masturbation is a normal sexual behavior always, especially after the menopause. Sexologists should teach youngsters that during the first sexual experience it's not compulsory to have a vaginal intercourse, but it's mainly important to give and to receive the pleasure, caressing and touching the partner, and that the contemporary stimulation of the clitoris during the vaginal intercourse facilitates the female orgasm, especially during the first time. Finally, it's important that sexologists spread people scientific notions and the use of a correct scientific terminology in describing female sexual anatomy and physiology. In sexual education, we should spread certainties for all women and not hypotheses.
There's been a Dutch woman who's not doing it any longer. There's been an Italian woman who's been doing it for a short while, but not any longer. So now, in November, she was in Copenhagen, and we have a media woman who has a school for, who's created a new school for sexologists. So people can come in from the street with whatever career. Yet it's about to show gradually now. They're growing into it, I guess. So yes, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the only one in Europe until now.
Yes. There is another question, please.